While election season may be behind us, the talk isn't over yet. After the results of the local 2012 Cedar Falls election worked in favor of the Democratic Party, Black Hawk County Republican Chair McDonald said in an interview with KWWL and the Waterloo-Cedar Falls Courier, University of Northern Iowa students should vote in their hometown instead of Cedar Falls.
If you're a student at UNI and you live in this community, you have a right to vote in the community that you live in, and what happens in state politics affects the institution that you attend. It affects the tuition that you pay, it affects the fees that you pay, and so, it's not something that students should be excluded from. Students get to choose where they consider to be their home.
McDonald argued that UNI students live in Cedar Falls for a temporary amount of time, while residents of the area are stuck with the student's decision.
I don't see anything wrong with UNI students voting in Cedar Falls or in Black Hawk County. I think that if we're living here, then we might as well have a say in what goes on in our own residence area. So I don't have any problem with voting here, and I think that I understand why some people might feel like that, but I personally don't agree with that statement.
But did UNI students sway the election in favor of Senator Jeff Danielson and Representative Bob Kressig? A record 29,000 absentee ballots were returned to Black Hawk County and were a popular method of voting for college students.
Well, traditionally absentee ballots have tended to be or tended to favor the Democratic candidate. Certainly when we were watching election night returns, when it came down to the Senate race with Senator Danielson and Matt Reister, that was a case where at least my understanding of it, the election day ballots were relatively close, but it was the absentee ballots that tipped it in favor of Senator Danielson. So that would suggest to me again that absentee ballot voters tend to be slightly more Democratic.
McDonald also questioned Iowa's same-day registration law, which allows voters to go into the polls on Election Day and register right then and there. McDonald said students registering at the polls created a bottleneck effect that caused long lines and resulted in residents leaving the polls.
It will cause lines sometimes, but in a general federal election, you have lines oftentimes anyway.
But I think if you're devoted enough to voting, or if you're committed enough to your particular politician, then you are anticipating that there's going to be a line, and you should stick it out if it's that important to you.
While McDonald was not available for contact, UNI professors said the proposal to limit the voting rights of UNI students should be thought through carefully.
I don't like the idea of saying that you can somehow restrict college students, or that they were somehow causing problems for Cedar Falls voters. I didn't hear a lot of that. And if we have more early voting, more absentee voting, then some of those lines go away. I haven't heard enough to convince me that that's a valid argument right now.
Yeah, and I'm in favor of fewer barriers to voting, to make it easy for people to vote, because then that encourages voting, and voting is a good thing. And if we encourage voters to vote, then part of that, and instilling in people that it's a duty, part of that is that they have a compunction to educate themselves as well. And that's what we want. We want an informed, educated citizenry that participates in self-governance.
For UNI-TV, I'm Lynn Ta.